So we know that this week's portion deals with the flood. Ki malah haaretz chamas mipnehem, that generation was so full of negativity. They stole from each other, they hurt each other. They were so full of negativity. Batishachet haaretz lifnei haElokim. The land itself became corrupted, not just the people, the animals, the vegetation, and the land. We know there's four levels of being, inanimate, vegetation, animal, and man. And through the actions of the people at the time, they made it so that all of the other three levels of being, animals, vegetation, and even the land itself, became corrupted. Because, as it says in the Midrash, Hakol kilkelu ma'asehen, af haaretz zinta, even the land itself started acting improperly. Hayu zor'in lachitin b'imafka zonin. That people started planting, let's say you would take a seed for wheat, and the land decided, I'm not going to let you eat wheat, I'm going to make something else grow. And no matter what you planted, it wouldn't grow what you wanted it to grow. That's what the Midrash says. That everything got so corrupted that even the land itself started growing what you didn't plan, growing what you didn't want. The Kabbalists ask, we know that the only level of being that has free will is man. Animals don't have free will, vegetation doesn't have free will, the land doesn't have free will. Why and how did the land suddenly become so corrupted that it started, again, growing wrong things? So much so, because it became so corrupted, that level, a layer of land on which you plow to plant, that was also eaten up by the flood as a punishment to the land for becoming as bad as everybody else, becoming as bad as man. The land, again, took it upon itself. God told it not to, but it took it upon itself to start saying, I don't care what you planted me, I'm going to mess this up for you. I'm going to grow something else. So he says, Nir'ali lefaresh. The Khatam Sofer says, so the deeper understanding, the secret of this story is, Ki yadua shenefesh haaretz mishtokeket le'atzmiya. When things are going right, or going properly, the earth itself desires to grow. It desires for food to be grown on it. It desires for animals to graze on it. It desires for man to walk upon it and use it. Because as Dari explains, certainly when it comes to reincarnation, but that the whole purpose of our world is to allow energy, light, sparks of light to elevate from one level to the next, to the next, to the next. From the level of inanimate objects, the earth, for instance, to give its strength, to give its koach, to give its energy into a plant, that plant to be eaten by an animal, that animal to be eaten by a human being, and that human being to use that energy that he receives for the sake of sharing, for the sake of bringing the light of the Creator into this world. And when that system works perfectly, the earth desires to give it, the vegetation desires to be eaten, the animal desires to be eaten, and man desires to connect to the light of the Creator. That's the way the system is meant to work. And there's an actual desire within the earth for vegetation to grow on it, for people to walk on it, for people to use it, so that its energy from the inanimate level can grow, be transformed into vegetation, into animal, into human, and then for a connection to the light of the Creator. So when we understand that there's an energy, there's a desire, as the Kabbalists call it, within the earth to give us strength, to enable the process of elevation of sparks, but that is when man ultimately uses this system for the purpose of transformation, for the purpose of connection to the light of the Creator, for the purpose of revealing the light of the Creator in this world. But at the time of the generation of the flood, shishchitu darkam, velo hayanaicha la'aretz lavo lemadregat shel reshaim v'chataim. And the land knew what's going to happen. If I give my strength into vegetation, and the vegetation is eaten by animals or eaten by man, what are they going to do with it? I look around. I see that everybody is using all the energy given to it, whether it be it food, be it the land to walk on or use, and they use it for selfish desires, for the desire to receive for the self alone. The earth, slowly but surely, because of the overwhelming acts of humanity at the time, lost its desire to give strength to man. As it says, Lo tosif tekocha lach. The earth lost its desire to give strength to man. And what you have to realize is that once that happens, we cannot, none of us, there's not one single person who can accomplish his or her work, task, achieve connection to light to the Creator, achieve joy and happiness, without the entire system supporting it, without the land desiring to give him or her energy, without the vegetation desiring to be eaten either by an animal or man to give them energy, for the animal to feel a desire to be eaten by man to give him or her energy to do the work of the light of the Creator. When that process begins to break down, the earth's desire to give energy into the vegetation that will grow on it, or to any man that walks on it, is no longer there. And then what happens? They explain, and this is a little bit deeper than that, that once the system breaks down, why did the flood have to happen? Why not? There's a lot of negative people in the world today. There have been many negative people in the history of humanity. What happened in that generation that necessitated a complete destruction of humanity rather than a plague that killed out 80% of humanity or 90% of humanity even? Why did there have to be this complete destruction? As Ari explains, the process of reincarnation allows for even the worst soul to go all the way down to the level of being an inanimate object, maybe being a piece of earth, and then slowly after 10 years, 100 years, or 1,000 years, go from earth to vegetation. From vegetation, that soul gets into an animal. From being an animal, it goes into a man, and if that man uses the energy from that animal that ate the vegetation, that came from the ground, in a positive way, that soul slowly begins its process of correction. But when the system breaks down, as it did in the time of the flood, the possibility of reincarnation no longer existed for the terribly negative people, because they had to go down to the earth. But the earth no longer had a desire to give its strength and allow the process of energy, of light, of sparks of light to go from earth to vegetation, from vegetation to animal, from animal to man. And therefore, once the process of reincarnation was no longer a possibility for the negative souls, then the new system had to be created. Then the whole of humanity had to be wiped away, except for Noach and his family, and then begin a whole process anew. Very interesting ideas, but one of the most important and practical ones for us is this understanding. We need the system to work for us. We have to realize that we cannot, no matter how spiritual we think we are, no matter how wise we think we are, do this work without the entire system helping us. Now what happens, for instance, if today you act in a selfish way, in a way of desire to receive for the self alone, then the earth no longer desires to give the fruit or vegetables that will grow on it for you its energy and light. And animals no longer want to have their energy inputted into you for you to use it in a selfish way. What happened in the time of the flood, chas v'shalom, can happen to an individual as well. Where if a person abuses the energy that he or she receives from the whole system in a negative way, then the system starts back towards the individual and says, the earth says, I don't want to give this man energy. The vegetation says, I don't want to give this man energy. The animals say, I don't want to give this person energy. And when that happens, that's the cause of disease, that's the cause of all the difficulties and challenges that an individual has. Because he or she, through his or her selfish desires, tells the land and tells the vegetation and tells the animals, I will take your energy and abuse it. In turn, the earth, vegetation, the animals say, we're not giving you any more energy. You might eat from the land, you might eat a fruit or vegetable, you might eat an animal, there's no energy in there. So therefore, that's why often you'll find two people one person can eat from the food, and we spoke about this a few years ago, but there's healing properties in food. There's all kinds of energy. When, for instance, great Kabbalists like Rav Ashlag or Shimon Bar Yochai ate a fruit or a vegetable or an animal, the energy that they received was unbelievably more than any energy that we can receive from it. Why? Because their system was working perfectly. For us, and again, now we realize it's not all or nothing. I mean, chas v'shalom, there is the nothing, which was the complete destruction and breakdown of the system, which was the generation of the flood. But for all of us, there is a level on this graph how much is the system going to work for you? How much desire will there be in the earth, in vegetables, in the fruits, in the animals that you eat to give you energy? And we decide that every single day. And again, if you take this a step deeper and you understand how everything in our lives is exact. So today, let's say for instance, you acted in a selfish way, in a way, desire to receive for the self alone. The whole system says, oh, 1 second, let's be careful what energy we give this person. You come to a restaurant and there's 2 pieces of fish there. One of them has great light in it. One of them, let's say none or much less. And the chef is going to decide, you put your order in, which are those 2, which are equal, and they're exactly what you ordered, onto the stove for your order. So when the system says, this person is abusing our light, our energy, so the Creator says, okay, take the fish with no energy, give it to this person. And everything is like that. Everything is like that. That every part of this system waits to see what kind of person, how is he or she using us? And if we show the system, we show the earth, we show the vegetation, we show the animals, we're taking you in and using you to share, using you to give us energy, to bring light to this world, they all say, oh good, let's give him the best. What's the best piece of meat? What's the best apple? What's the best vegetable? Those are the ones that have the sparks, the greatest sparks in them. And those are going to go to those who are using that energy and not abusing it for selfish reasons. And that's the first understanding that we receive. This understanding that the system waits to see, do we use it or abuse it? Do we take in that energy and use it for selfish reasons? Then they all take a step back. We're not going to invest, the land says, the vegetation says, the animals say, we're not going to invest our best energy, our best sparks into this person who's acting in a selfish way, in a way of desire to receive for the self alone. We're going to save these best pieces, these best sparks for a person who's using the energy that we're going to give him for the sake of sharing. And we can, and this is a very important understanding, if you lose the support of the system, you can't do your work. Impossible. You can't be happy, you can't be connected to light, to the Creator, you can't do the work for which you came to this world. And if we have to understand, every time before we're about to do an action of desire to receive for the self alone, before we're about to do something selfish, stop and say, it's not just about this action. We know we often think, okay, I do this negative action, I'll have to correct it. I'll correct it today or tomorrow or next year or next Yom Kippur. No. It's not just the correction of that action. It's that once you do that action, the system knows about it. And the system then decides, do I want to continue investing my best sparks, my best energy in this person? And the answer, of course, is no. And of course, and it changes every single day. It changes every single moment, depending on our actions, depending on how we use that system. But what has to be clear is that we cannot do the work, which means we cannot have fulfillment, we can't have happiness, we can't have health, we can't have the blessings without the system working for us. And we tell the system to work or not to work for us, to work better or to work worse for us. How we use the energy that the system, that the earth, that the vegetation, that the animals give into us. And every single time, before we do a negative action, the action of desire to receive for the self alone, ask yourself this question. Don't forget about the fact you'll have to correct whatever darkness you bring into your life by this negative action of selfishness, of desire to receive for the self alone. But also stop and say, 1 second, what's going to happen is that, I don't know how long it will last, an hour, a day, or a week, the system's not going to help me. The earth is not going to help me. The vegetation is not going to help me. The animals aren't going to help me. And if I lose that support, I can't be happy. I can't be connected. I can't do my work.